do you really think that AI will take a lot of jobs and there will be bloodbaths on the streets and everything around it?
I think it's going through a really nice, I would say, cleanup. The hype. So businesses are going to be rethink about their expenses.
This is the right time where you should come up as an entrepreneur.
So most of AI services today, whether it's a AI SaaS product or tooling, is all private and proprietary. Regardless of who you are, where you are, anytime you can access it.
The ethical problems that AI have, where you can control geopolitics, how people think, or maybe the economical structures, because people are relying on AI, which is a big problem, right? It's not economical, it's about the society.
So take Google, take Meta, take Microsoft. They have a huge amount of data. They're listening to everybody and collect data from everybody.
Makes the platform more vulnerable. For example, if AWS wants to shut down all Ethereum nodes tomorrow, they can do it. How he can leverage OpenxAI to accomplish all of that? If you have to start from the beginning today, without your connections, without your years of knowledge, without any funding, or without any personal capital, how do you build your company? What would be your roadmap? Hi guys, today we have Ashton with us. Ashton is a pioneer in Web3 and blockchain space, and he's working on his AI and blockchain startup. We'll be talking a lot more about it, and we'll learn about it. We'll learn about the AI space and how this is evolving and what are the opportunities for all of us. If you are a student, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, this podcast will make a lot of more sense to you. You can learn a lot. You can understand a lot of more things. We'll talk about how this technology is evolving and, maybe get some juicy details out of Ashton and then how this industry works and, how do we maximize it. So, hi Ashton, thank you for coming to the podcast.
Pleasure to have me.
How's your day?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. It's a busy day today.
Yep.
This is my second podcast, so.
But no, talking about your stuff always is refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So Ashton, coming to the topic, since you are, working in this AI startup and doing all these amazing stuff, we're hearing all these stories that AI is gonna take our jobs, and or the other narrative that AI is not real and this is all hype up and this hype will die soon, and all this stuff is going on. What's your real take as an entrepreneur, as a builder in the space? What's your real take, on the AI in general?
I think everything you said is true. Like it's a hype, and a hype is died. Whether AI going to take over some jobs, that's true as well. I think it's going through a really nice, I would say, cleanup, the hype, and we're going through S-curve in the AI space. So I think the cost will come down on a lot of things, whether it's training models or being able to access to AI services. I think we're going to see some good real technologies evolving, like use cases, not just the chatbots, right? So I like the idea of the agentic aspects as well.
So do you really think that AI will take a lot of jobs and there will be bloodbaths on the streets and everything around it? Because a lot of people who are working in the back end offices, probably back end coding or maybe call centers or maybe BPOs or junior level devs are afraid that they might lose their jobs in this fiasco. What do you think about it?
I think it's true to some aspect, right? Because, I mean, businesses are always looking for a cost optimization. Okay. If they can replace a human for like 10th of a cost, yes, they would do it. And I think in a global scale, if we have some sort of a slowdown in economies, large economies like US, let's say 2026, 2027, so businesses are going to be rethink about their expenses. So if they can replace, let's say, 10 teams instead of having 10 people looking after marketing, content writing, or automation, or maybe reaching out to potential customers, if they can automate that, I think they would do it.
Yeah, actually, coming from India, I can literally sense these lines of fear, and whenever I meet somebody who's who's like scared that he might lose his job to AI, I always tell him that don't be scared of AI. You know, make AI your superpower, and you work in the space, you build something in the space. This is the right time where you should come up as an entrepreneur and do some stuff in the AI space. Talking about this, I think your company is primarily solving this problem because building on AI is easy like never before, and you can build your AI startup or maybe a AI project very quickly with and very efficiently with OpenxAI. OpenxAI seems to be a blend of AI and all these AI models and blockchain. How does this work? And it sounds magical to me, but teach me like I'm five. That how does this work?
Sure. So think about, like, the simplest way to think about OpenxAI is you can find the most let's say useful open source AI models and host on anywhere that you prefer. Let's call it infrastructure, and own the infrastructure by yourself by using Web3 technologies. Like, these are the three principles that we use. And we also came up with a concept called permissionless AI. So what is permissionless AI? So most of AI services today, whether it's a AI SaaS products or tooling, is all private and proprietary. So which means you need their permission to access. Like typical journey for accessing AI services today, you go into a particular service like ChatGPT, you sign up with it, and you put your email and password, you agree for terms and conditions, and you just start using it. So that is closed source proprietary AI, which is 98% of AI ecosystem today. Second bucket is open source AI, which by default, like, you understand it's open source, anyone can access, anyone can use it, anyone can modify it. One of the big example would be like Hugging Face, right? Hugging Face is an open source AI ecosystem. So you can download AI models. The hosting of AI models can be centralized, but it's a really great directory of all the popular AI models. And then the evolution in the Web3 space, which is decentralized AI, right? So there are so many terminologies, but the way I see it, it's basically open source technology governed by a community. That's pretty much the decentralized AI. So, and then the next evolution of that is permissionless AI. So what is permissionless AI? Thinking about the decentralized AI narrative. So you've got similar like Bitcoin network, where you can have access to the network as long as you have a computer and an internet connection, regardless of who you are, where you are, anytime you can access it, right? So there's no middleman, there's no KYC, there's no terms and conditions you need to follow to access it. So OpenxAI, it has the same kind of properties. So you can deploy AI agent models or AI foundational models. You can host it, train it, and you can do that without having any permission.
Understood. So do you have any competition, or do we have a project that's solving similar problem in the Web3 space as of now?
There are a lot of like virtuals probably being able to deploy your agents. That's a good example. But OpenxAI is basically a little bit more like from infrastructure level. So we focus on infrastructure a lot. Being able to deploy your AI infrastructure in a decentralized compute and a decentralized network of infrastructure, and then control your entire stack all the way to application, to your front end, to your data. So we allow users to manage the entire stack, because I think AI privacy is a really big thing. Being able to have your AI metadata, whether your foundational model or your application layer data, controlling those data and managing the data by yourself and having the freedom to do what you want to do with the data is very important.
Yeah, so privacy in AI is very important, as you have rightly mentioned. But we talk about all these the ethical problems that AI have, in the today's world, because now AI is a wild tool where you can, control geopolitics, how people think, or maybe the economical structures, because people are relying on AI like anything. They are asking all their health questions, they are asking all their finance questions, their future decisions depend what the AI will recommend. And
which is bad.
we see all this OpenxAI or maybe Meta AI or with Google, that they try to push their own agenda forward with their AIs, which is a big problem, right? It's not economical. It's about the society that we live in, and the way they want to shape it in their interest rather than for the common interest. So probably the privacy or the ethical AI question is still there, and how do you see this problem?
I mean, this is one of the big motivation, personally for me, because most of AI technologies today, whether it's research or applications or large-scale infrastructure, controlled by 4 to 5 companies, right? To me, that's a big problem because these 4 to 5 companies, they have 3 things they control. Number one, they have the biggest AI capabilities, whether it's AI research or AI R&D, and they also have the largest AI talent in under single hood. Second, they also happen to be the largest data custodian. So take Google, take Meta, take Microsoft. They have a huge amount of data that they collected, whether scrapping the web or they obtain data using their social media platforms, right? Because in real time, they collect a lot of data. They're listening to everybody and collect data from everybody. Right. So they know, they have data about the historical records of, let's say, weather, financial markets, medical records, what happened in the history, knowledge about the knowledge about the earth, the universe, everything. So the second is they have the biggest knowledge. And the third, the same companies, they also happen to manage and control and own the largest data centers. So data centers to me is like a brain. Knowledge to me is like the data custody is to me is like a knowledge. And then the AI capabilities and the politicalness of the AI and ownership of the AI or the influence of the AI also within the same 4 to 5 companies. And we're supposed to trust them, right? So it's a very scary situation because, as you know, when you're given a lot of power, influence, responsibility, accountability to a small group of people, and hoping for the best is not really worked really well in the past. We always stuff things up. One of a great example I can show, a recent example, is 2008 financial crisis. So regulators didn't really oversight the derivative markets and mortgage-backed securities, and a lot of freedom has been given to those large banks, and then they just did whatever they want to do with it, right? The bottom line for them is to make money and then obviously extract value out of that opportunity. And what happened? The financial market collapsed and the world suffered. And if you look at that example to today, we are having the same kind of a situation. However, the difference compared to financial markets to the AI industry, the impact will be 10, 20, maybe 100 or 10,000 times impactful because AI is one of the most advanced technologies that human ever created. And we don't know the implication or the capabilities of the destruction. So if you're given those capabilities into a five to six corporations and hoping for the best, and if you have the least amount of regulatory oversight, that's a big challenge because that's if you look at the big beautiful bill that introduced by Trump, it stated for the next 10 years you only do federal level oversight, not the state level. State level oversight is easier to go and enforce. Let's say California state can go after, let's say, Meta if they violate anything, like whether it's a data privacy issues or anything. If you go federal level, that takes months and years. The exact playbook, the situation we had in 2008. And I think this is where we need to think about, instead of giving the power, influence, accountability to a small group of people, how you can distribute that capabilities and technologies and knowledge to everyone. At least you have like a distributed risk in that case.
That's a very noble motivation. But as we talk, you was head of the innovation in Phantom. It's a big L1, and you have worked your way out, and so you were well placed in Web3 before this. So was this the only motivation that you pivoted to OpenxAI, or were there any more instances that moved you and you wanted to decentralize the future of AI?
So before decentralized, let's say permissionless AI for OpenxAI, I look for like, what are the fundamental things that we can do to either accelerate our industry, which is Web3 industry, or address some of the core fundamental problems. So when I was working with Phantom, one of the key aspect I realized, infrastructure is always going to drive a lot of decisions, right? So being L1 chain, if L1 chain is run by a close number of node operators, it becomes a centralized entity. So if your value proposition is a consensus as a service, as a L1 chain, and you're allowing dApp developers and startups to come and build on top, and if the chain is centralized, then why would you come and build it in the first place? You could just go to a centralized centralized database. So to me, then I was thinking, how can you make a network more decentralized? Then if you go and ask a question, why a network, how a network can be more decentralized, is all come down to the node operator's economic viability. So what that means, if you're running a Ethereum node, and if you have to pay infrastructure cost or electricity bill to run Ethereum node, if it's $200, and if you're not receiving enough Ethereum to cover your bills, what's the point of you running it? What's the point of running Ethereum node, right? So this economic factor is very important. And then we looked at, okay, why $200 for running Ethereum node? I mean, we try to figure that out. We ask a question. And it turned out to be, most of people, for a convenience purpose, they choose like public cloud, because public cloud, by default, it runs 24/7. It's just easy to deploy. So because of their convenience, unfortunately, they've been paying a ridiculous amount of premium on their cloud bills. So if you're running a Phantom
and
node,
this makes the platform more vulnerable. For example, if AWS wants to shut down all Ethereum nodes tomorrow, they can do it.
Sure. I mean, there's a centralization problem, but then there's economical viability problem as well, right? So economic viability is what I wanted to focus on first. So if you address that $200 problem, if you can bring the $200 per month running a node on AWS to all the way to, like, let's say $20, now all of a sudden, if you're receiving, let's say, node rewards from Ethereum, $100, all of a sudden you're now economically viable. So therefore, you will be more likely to extend your node operation commitment. So all of a sudden, all these L1 chains will have more nodes in the network. A lot of independent node operators will come to the network. That increase the finality of the network, the decentralization of the network, and then the network can run efficiently. So that was the problem I wanted to focus right after I left Phantom in 2019. So I wanted to build like an AWS of Web3 and let people find the cheapest compute It's kind of like a sky scanner for a GPU and CPU. Find the cheapest server and pay for it, not not using fiat currency, using crypto. Because if you go to AWS, the journey of AWS is create the account, sign up with the account, agree with the terms, connect your credit card, and do your KYC if you're a larger account, right? So if you're a Web3 company, now all of a sudden you have to convert your crypto into fiat. And if you want to have a large AWS account, you have to have an entity. So what we thought, how can we change that journey and experience, convert completely into like Uniswap? Uniswap experience is, okay, I have 10 Ethereum, I want to swap into USDT. I go, it's permissionless, connect my wallet, swap it, right? We wanted to bring the same experience when it's come to cloud. So that's why we built OpenMesh. You can connect your wallet, find a server, and when you activate the server, connect to your wallet, that is your logging, that is your KYC, and you manage your entire infrastructure with your Ethereum wallet.
That's impressive. So, Ashton, we have done around 200 hackathons in past 2 years, and I have interacted with a lot of young professionals, developers, university students, and a lot of them want to break into this AI space, right? They are looking for doors from where they can enter, and what are the opportunities. With OpenxAI, I can see that we are opening a lot more doors. We are opening a lot more opportunities, right? For a very young professional who wants to get in, but don't have a network, you don't have resources, don't have much knowledge about the space. How he can leverage OpenxAI to accomplish all of that.
Yeah. So OpenxAI is built on top of OpenMesh. So OpenxAI, our value proposition for OpenxAI is quite simple. So find the most best open source foundational model and deploy into a decentralized infrastructure, pay like 80% cheap compared to AWS. And you can do that without having too much code experience. So if you're a non-coder, if you want to start your AI company tomorrow, you can do that within under like 5 minutes. So we have a web-based console called OpenxAI Studio. So you go to OpenxAI Studio, we have an app store where you find the most popular open source AI models. You pick your model and pick your infrastructure and then go and deploy. So it's basically very simple for non-coder, go from 0 to 1, launching your AI company. You can do that, from your bedroom.
Yeah, that's wild that how far we have come in terms of technology. Extended this question, if you have to start from the beginning today, without your connections, without your years of knowledge, without any funding, or without any personal capital, how do you build your company? What would be your roadmap? Give me clear roadmap, maybe, step by step process that I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this.
Okay.
So what should be the process?
Okay. So let's look
and
at
then probably you are 25-year-old or maybe 20-year-old.
Right. So I have a great example, right? So I mostly based out of Sydney, Australia. We went to one of the let's say highly concentrated AI ecosystem called Sydney Startup Hub. So in that building, a lot of startups from one founder tried to figure out something to all the way to enterprises. We met a co-founder, small startup. It's a university student, like 23-year-olds, and they wanted to build like a chatbot, but specialized in Australian universities, because a lot of students want to know about when is my next exam, how do I do it. Everything need to be, they have to research. What they did, they optimized to answer questions, and their business model. Anyone can ask 100 questions for free. Anything beyond that, you pay $10. Now, when you ask the journey, how they came up with the idea and how do they go from 0 to 1, so it was a really painful journey for them. It took like 2 months not to build the technology, not to find the customers, not to, get the customers and then, testing the customers, none of that stuff. It took like 2 months for them to set up a company. Because if you think about what you need, when you build, let's say, AI SaaS product, it has a credit card payment system because that's how you charge from the customer, $10. Now, when you collect payments from using credit card payment systems, the payments has to come into a bank account. That's supposed to be your bank account, right? Cannot be a personal account, has to be a company bank account. And now that money has to be come into that. So you have to sign up with the credit card payment systems, integrate with the bank. And in Australia, in order to open a corporate bank account, you need to have a company. In order to have a company, you need to register. You have to have lawyers. So they were thinking launching an AI company, but then they pushed back for 2 months because they need to set up a company, register for a bank account, all sorts of stuff. And that's true for pretty much for a lot of people. And if you go beyond Western countries, like I'm original from Sri Lanka. So when you speak to people in Sri Lanka, if you want to start an AI company today, what does your journey look like? So because of the region, you won't be able to even sign up for a credit card payment systems because those regions, they wouldn't even consider you as a serious entrepreneur. And opening a bank account in Dubai, if you're a startup, like think about it, it might take like months. So, and based on my research, more than 2.6 billion people don't have a bank account. So that's the challenge. So imagine that 2 months, the case of that two founders university AI company, they spent about $20,000 Australian dollars to actually go from 0 to 1, not the building technology. It just for that, the basic setup that needed. So for me...
And what would be the cost if they go with OpenxAI today?
So, okay, what we thought, instead of having to have a bank account, having a company, why don't you leverage Web3 technologies? So instead of having a bank account, have a wallet, one wallet, or you can have 100 wallets. Instead of having a company, use a smart contract to protect your intellectual property. Instead of having a SaaS and credit card payment system, use a subscription model built on a smart contract. So if you use these smart contract capabilities, for example, if you want to rent your AI services, if you want to sell your data, you can use ERC wrappers, whether ERC 721, 1155, or 446, these types of wrappers, which we build. So all of a sudden, it's basically a smart contract deploying into a blockchain. And the cost would be, like, depending on the chain, we estimate if you choose like a base, you'll be paying less than 50 cents. If you use Ethereum, it's depending on the gas price, it's less than $10.
Shit. So now we're talking about that from $20,000, now we have to spend less than $10 or maybe 50 cents if you don't have money. So it's accessible. Now everybody can do it.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience, right? The story that you were telling. When I was in my university back in 2015, one of the major, one of the biggest private banks in India, ICICI Bank, used to run this hackathon kind of a thing, or not exactly hackathon, it was just kind of a hacker house, a 4 month long program where you have to apply and all the business ideas, you should submit. So I submitted an idea about chatbot around the banking infrastructure to replace their customer care service. The idea got selected, we got funding, we got access to their data. We uses NLM and natural language processing to create a chatbot around it. But the problem that we faced the resources that were required back then to accomplish something like that were enormous, right? And as a startup and as university students, we didn't have resources to accomplish it. So at the end, what we did is we gave our idea to that bank, and the bank is still running on that chatbot that we created for them back in the day.
Of course.
We got good money, like at that point of time, guys, $15,000 or $20,000 as university students, which was honestly a huge amount
Of course.
back then in India. But at the same time, today I wonder that if I could have the access to the network and to the servers and to the data, I could have built that company, and that company might be worth of like billions of dollars because it's banking data,
Yes.
right, today. But I settled for $15,000-$20,000 because I didn't had resources. And now with the products like OpenxAI, we are making it so much accessible and so much wonderful to work on these kind of ideas. It's amazing, and it's not about the idea or a project. I think it's very noble. It will enable a lot of entrepreneurs. It will enable a lot of developers to build something which is good for the humanity, good for the society, and then obviously, we can bank the unbanked. That has been motto of Web3 from the beginning. Starting with Satoshi Nakamoto when he created Bitcoin, that was the motto, and you are taking the torch forward with OpenxAI. So kudos on that as well. Now we have done a lot of serious talks around this, right? A lot of stories, a lot of stuff, a lot of information. So you are in this space for last 10 years now, if I'm not wrong.
Since 2015.
2015. So it's been 10 years. So tell me some good, spicy, wild stories of Web3, that how people have made money in your circles, and how why this space is so exciting.
I think wild stories. I probably spend like 10 hours speaking wild stories. One thing exciting our space, because if you look at traditional startup space, probably you have a certain cycles, repeat every maybe 1 year or 1.5 years, right? In crypto, that those can be 6 months or 3 months. Some cycles, over in 1 month. So you have to be able to go extremely fast, and also being able to like understand how you can be relevant in 2 years, because in Web3 space there's a lot of like really bad projects. They just launch it because of the token and being able to financially benefit for the team or the ecosystem. I think if you look at the real value of a token economy, you can address your bootstrapping problem. So if you look at like a traditional startup, Web2 startup, the only time you will be profitable is when you have your product market fit. So it's basically you're bootstrapping until you reach that product market fit, and then hopefully you have a minimal viable product, and hopefully you have the customers, and the customers are paying for X amount of dollars, and then your revenue somehow break even. So you become survivable, right? So it's basically bootstrapping problem. If you look at Web3, from the day one, you can actually address that bootstrapping problem by issuing a token. So it's basically you have the use of this the new protocol or a new ways of addressing that bootstrapping problem. Of course, a lot of Web3 startups abuse that, but I think the fundamental aspect of
any stories about these abuse that you can think of?
I mean, there's just so many stories, right? If you look at the meme coin industry or all these pumps and dumps that you see, they just basically launch a project and they spend so much money on marketing, and they basically give a big hope and they deliver nothing, right?
Yeah. So talking about it, since you have mentioned about this pump and dump and all these meme gun stuff, the one thing that I liked the most about OpenxAI is that it's a community funded product. You have not taken any money on VC, and you literally boost this on the landing page itself. Like the moment you open XAI website, it states that we are not VC backed, we are community funded. Why exactly you choose this funding method? Because it's more difficult, and at your stature and with your background, it's very easy for you to maybe get venture funding, and you have access to a lot of communities. I know a lot of VCs are behind you, that they want to give you money and they want to invest in your startup. Then you chose the difficult way. Why was that?
So I think it's the same idea that you should own your data and you should own your infrastructure. You own your own, control your crypto. You own your crypto by putting everything on a hardware ledger. So same idea here. If we use, let's say, external funding, VCs, typically for SAFT or LAFT agreements, they're looking for a structure, like especially like a company or a foundation. Problem with that idea, if you want to be a decentralized permissionless protocol and having a foundation or a company behind it, it's a bit of a centralized choke point, regardless of anybody in this space saying no, it's decentralized and etc. So we don't want to have that centralized choke point. We want to set, first of all, we wanted to set an example. This is how proper decentralization means. So you have a smart contract, you have a GitHub, and you have a DAO. And then you have a token to manage the protocol, and there's no company. So typically VCs looking for a company to invest, and they have side deals with the team, and all they're looking for to doubling or tripling their investments. Most VCs, they don't typically add value. There are good VCs, they care about innovation, protocols, and maybe acceleration of the industry. But most VCs' KPIs is doubling, tripling their money.
So are your friends upset with you in the VC circles?
Yes, big time, yes. Yeah,
You're breaking the mold with this.
I've had a bad experience with VCs. I think Phantom Time and also Digital X, that was one of the project. They only listen to you or care about you when the token price up. They think you're the genius. You or your team knows what you're doing, and if token price drops below than what they enter, they call you scammers and etc.
Yeah, Web3 is all about token prices these days.
Yeah.
So you bootstrapped this idea with this vision, from ground up. That's very impressive. So
My team, myself and my team together. Yeah.
So how was that journey?
Very difficult. I mean, imagine you have to pay for services and building tech, and teams are not getting paid for weeks, months. It's a really painful journey.
Yeah. So so since it's a community-driven idea, and then you don't have any VCs to give returns to, so everything will go back to the community. The early users, early adopters, and the contributors to the project will make great money probably if fun is or will have larger opportunities, right? So what are the exact incentives for the early adopters that they can expect from OpenxAI, and how do they maximize their returns and opportunities and everything via some actions?
I think the best opportunity is being part of something really cool. Like imagine you give an opportunity like early internet boom. You probably didn't have that opportunity to go to Silicon Valley and invent something, right? But today, I'm not talking about OpenxAI in general, but if you look at the AI space in general, AI to me is still early. So there's so many opportunities. So being part of something that cool and innovative, I think is a great opportunity. Because if you're working on a project or ecosystem or being part of a community that pushing the industry to like a really cutting edge technologies, that's the best way to learn, right? That's the best way to connect with great people, great minds. The more knowledge you have, the more relationships you build in the network. That helps your career, that helps your growth, and etc. So for us, being part of a OpenxAI ecosystem and the community, people get all of that. upfront, right?
Okay. So a lot of people want to know whether there will be some kind of airdrops or some kind of rewarding mechanisms for the early users, or maybe early AI engineers who will deploy on OpenxAI before the TG
Yeah,
or
sure.
after the TG.
So if you contribute, so there are a lot of grants. Hopefully, from our DAO, can allocate a lot of grants. And in the platform itself, we have a really nice incentive mechanisms. So if you deploy an let's say AI agent or AI service, you have some underlying costs, right? You have to pay for even this 80% cheap compared to AWS. We still have to pay for it. And what we have is we have a staking mechanism. So if you launch an AI company or AI agent or AI service, those services are recorded on chain. And think about like those services are like NFTs. What you can do, you can stake them. And what we do for early users who are deploying or consuming these apps or services, they can notify to the network, say, here's my ID on chain record, and they can stake it. They can get some, I mean, if you want to call it airdrop, they can earn some of our tokens. So that's like how we distribute tokens rather than doing airdrops.
That's impressive. That is,
Proof of work.
Proof of work. Or if I have to simplify this is something where I am being incentivized to launch my own company.
Correct.
And this is insane. And this can only happen in Web3 space for sure. But the
Only
idea
can,
is
yes.
insane, and it really moved me that now I can launch my AI companies. And I don't know whether, if even if the startup doesn't work, then also I'm getting incentivized just for doing the effort, right?
Experiments.
And this is awesome. Talking about the experiments, you are doubling down on India, right? And with all the initiatives and activation that we are doing together, you are very bullish on India as per our communications, like before this podcast as well. Why India, and why are you so? Why do you want to? Why are you so excited about India?
I'm still learning about India. India came to our radar last year, especially with the Bangalore Tech Summit. We find India, obviously India has a lot of talent, and also we find a great distribution. And we also see like it's a great way to work with those engineers, and then it's easier to mold them because sometimes they have a foundational understanding if you're a university student, and you can take them in a really nice journey, and you can get things done quickly over there compared to some of the regions. For example, if you were to work with the Australian startups or Australian universities, you have to go through a lot of process. There's a lot of bureaucratic systems and protocols in place that external technologies or startups cannot interact with it. So India, we see like you can engage. There's a lot of open doors for external, whether it's like international companies or international protocol like us to interact with. So we find the distribution and easy access to these talent. And also I find like a lot of people we feel the pain or the pain points of those individuals, right? Because for us, imagine the exact point that you said, launching your AI company without least amount of risk and also incentivize for them to test and experiment, that's a great thing, right? Being able to do that from their bedroom without worrying about anything else, that's a great thing. So we can actually experiment from those users and learn from those users to improve our user experience and the technology.
Wow, that's great. So before we wrap up this podcast series and this interview, you want to help the next stage of builders and developers and entrepreneurs that coming this bit. What is one piece of advice that you want to give them before they are starting their journey in the AI space?
Pick one thing. I think this is where
so we can go one persona by persona probably. So if you have to give one advice to a young developer who is in the university and is passionate about the space,
what a lot of people don't realize, to get get something like learning and be good at something, it takes time. So just pick one or two things that you feel passionate and stick with it. Because often what we see, a lot of students and early young entrepreneurs or developers, they see, okay, here's the next shiny thing. Let me just quickly go and try to learn that. Now there's another one. I think it's always good to take a step back and really understand, what are the foundational pillars for this industry. Learn that, and then stick with like one or two things that you really personally you really care about, and then start experimenting and try to move fast, because that's the only thing you will
And
stay ahead.
one piece of advice for entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs is just move fast. Just don't worry too much about what other startups are doing. If you find you have a good conviction of your technology, you have to just pick one and stick with it, and then just move fast.
And what about the professionals that are working in the space that are not developers? For example, the marketing, people, the content creators. Any advice for them?
For them, I think it's just getting some more insights, because if you listen to a lot of these experts and KOLs who represent AI industry, they tend to repeat the same thing, right? So find some really cool insights. Maybe use your creativity and inspiration to give some like perspectives, their personal perspectives, and how they see whether it's a positive or a negative about the future, and etc.
Yeah. That's a very good piece of advice. Probably our viewers will get a lot of benefit on. I'm really enjoying this conversation, Ashton. But since you have to rush for another interview, we cannot extend it further. But thank you for coming, and it was great. It was a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thank you.